Welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be taking a look at the 7 SUVs Consumer Reports can't stop praising. Number 7. Mazda CX-50. People think Mazda can't stand with the bigger brands. They're wrong. The CX-50 just pulled a 91 reliability score from Consumer Reports, and the twist is that it's built in Alabama, not Japan. But the real story is the engine. Mazda took its SkyActiv setup and added a process borrowed from high-end watchmakers. Each part is measured with care that most brands never even try for. The shocker is the result. 0 major engine failures in the first year. 0 transmission swaps. 0 electrical blowouts. In a time when SUVs feel like computers that break down like laptops, the CX-50 runs with steady, repeatable precision. Mazda kept the tech calm and simple. No giant screen taking over the dash. No paid plan needed for remote start. No updates that can freeze your system. They focused on long life for every part. Owners are saying something odd. The car feels tighter after 30,000 miles than it did on day one. Panel gaps stay the same, doors close with the same sound, no rattles. Inside, Mazda went a different way. While others use cheap plastic and call it modern, the CX-50 uses materials you'd see in cars that cost $15,000 more. Real stitching on the dash. Proper sound dampening in the doors with more than a thin foam piece. The cabin is quiet enough that some owners say they can hear their heartbeat on the highway. Test runs show 68 dB at 70 miles per hour, which is in high-end sedan territory. The all-wheel drive system is another highlight. It doesn't wait for slip. It reads the road many times per second and moves power before traction drops. Drivers in Colorado say it beats SUVs that cost twice as much, not on a test track, but on steep passes where a mistake sends you sliding. The 91 score stands out even more because the CX-50 is fun to drive. Many reliable SUVs feel dull. This one feels like Mazda still remembers its sports car days. The steering talks back, the throttle reacts fast, the body stays flat in corners. Mechanics are seeing the final clue. CX-50 owners come in for oil and tires, and that's it. No random warning lights, no screen freezes, no strange wiring faults, just basic upkeep. For a fresh platform with a fresh engine, that says a lot. Number 6. Subaru Outback. Subaru has a long history of solid cars, but this one goes a step further. It feels close to bulletproof. Consumer Reports gave it a 93. That number hurts the rivals for one simple reason. This SUV went through tests that should have ended it. Death Valley heat at 127 degrees, Alaska cold at -40, rough ground that snaps axles, rocky climbs, forest mud, desert sand that eats wheel bearings. It made it through all of it without fuss and without failures. The reason starts with Subaru fixing their old problems. Those head gasket issues from years ago, the ones that cost owners a lot and almost ruined Subaru's name, pushed them to rebuild the whole engine block. They used stronger metal in the block, new sealing tech borrowed from marine engines, and changed the coolant path so the hot zones that killed the old gaskets no longer form. Then comes the part nobody brings up. They run each engine for 200 hours straight before it ever touches a car. Not a batch test, every single engine. Mechanics have also noticed something odd. The Outback has fewer parts than other SUVs in its class. Subaru removed whole systems that other brands depend on and replaced them with simpler setups. The electronic parking brake is gone, swapped for a mechanical unit that never fails due to a software glitch. The power liftgate with its sensors and fussy calibration is gone too, replaced by a lighter manual liftgate. Fewer parts means fewer failures. Most brands add layers of complexity to raise prices. Subaru went in the other direction. And the surprise is how well it holds value. 3-year numbers sit at 72%. Spend $40,000 today and you can still get about $28,800 in 3 years. Compare that with a luxury SUV that drops to around 55% and the Outback starts to look like the clear money choice. There is also the real toughness built into it. The underbody protection is steel, not thin plastic. The suspension parts are thicker than needed for the weight. Even the radiator has mesh that blocks stones without blocking air. These things don't show up in most reviews but matter when you are 200 miles from the nearest shop. And now something unexpected is on the way, coming from a brand that is shaking up what people think a reliable hybrid can be. Number 4. Lexus NX. Lexus has always had a solid record for reliability, but the NX is operating on a level that feels strange for a model with this much tech in its first run. Consumer Reports gave it a 95, which is almost unheard of for something this complex. And here is the odd part. This SUV is loaded with features that should be trouble-prone. Adaptive suspension that adjusts damping 650 times per second. Digital side mirrors instead of glass. A touchpad interface that finally works. Ambient lighting with 64 colors. A heads-up display with clear arrows during turns. So how does something this complicated score higher than simple models with basic tech? Lexus made a bold choice. They delayed the launch by 11 months, not for supply issues, not for design changes, but because testing showed 17 ways the car could fail in the first 50,000 miles. They rebuilt all 17 systems from the ground up. New controllers for the digital mirrors with backup processors. New valve design for the adaptive suspension. New supplier and new software for the touchpad. The version you buy now is basically the second version of a car that never had a public first version. The hybrid setup comes from Toyota's industrial equipment division instead of the car division. This is the gear used in forklifts and machines that run non-stop in warehouses. They took that heavy-duty tech and fit it into the NX. The result is a hybrid system far stronger than a normal passenger car needs. It is like putting tank armor on a bicycle. These parts are rated far above what daily driving will ever demand. Here is the part that still shocks people. The NX is quicker than the non-hybrid model. Most hybrids trade speed for mileage. Not this one. 0 to 60 in 6.8 seconds while giving 39 mpg combined. And owners say the performance does not fade. At 50,000 miles, it pulls like it did on day one. The battery keeps its health. The motor keeps its output. It is not following the usual drop-off that most battery systems show. And Lexus barely talks about this. The markup on the NX is low for a luxury brand. Dealers are annoyed because they earn more selling a Toyota Highlander than a Lexus NX. Buyers end up getting a luxury hybrid at a price close to mainstream. You pay around $45,000 for something that feels closer to $60,000. The cabin drives the point home. The leather is semi-aniline, not the cheaper corrected grain leather others use. It ages well instead of cracking. The stitching is not just for style, every seam is reinforced. The dash is not made of simple plastic. It is a composite that does not off-gas in heat or get brittle in cold. Even the service schedule sounds unreal. Oil every 10,000 miles. Transmission fluid is lifetime. Brake pads last around 80,000 miles because regenerative braking handles most of the work. Rotors stay cool, pads barely wear, and you only use them hard in emergencies. And now comes the twist. A 3-row SUV that should not be this reliable is next. Number 3, Toyota Highlander Hybrid. 3-row SUVs usually fall apart sooner than people expect. More weight puts stress on the drivetrain. More people means more load on the electrical system. More moving parts in the second and third row means more chances for things to break. It should be basic math. Yet the Highlander Hybrid pulled a score of 96 from Consumer Reports, and that number is making rival brands rethink how they build their big family models. Toyota kept things simple. They did not chase fancy tech. They leaned on systems that have already proven themselves in the Prius and Camry for millions of miles over 20 years. They scaled those systems up. No experiments, no tech built for marketing slides that later fails in someone's driveway. Just proven parts put together with tight quality control. What scares the competition is the long run. This model has been built since 2020 and still shows no pattern of major failures. Check NHTSA records, check owner groups, check legal filings. There is nothing serious, no big recalls, no mass complaints, no long threads full of owners stuck with dead engines or bad transmissions. Most 3-row hybrids run into at least one big issue by year 3. The Highlander Hybrid has not. That alone sets it apart. Then comes the build quality. Toyota factories are known for strict checks, and this model goes through 847 of them before it ships out. These are real tests, not someone giving a quick look. Door seals are checked with pressure sensors that measure tiny changes. Electronics get full diagnostic sweeps equal to hours of dealer work. If one test fails, the unit goes back for correction. Buyers often miss the resale angle. This SUV keeps its value so well that buying it long-term usually makes more sense than leasing. In 3 years, it can hold about 70% of its price. A $50,000 unit can still be worth $35,000. Most rivals drop to around 55%. That drop costs owners thousands. Fuel economy is another shock. Getting around 35 mpg in a 3-row SUV that can seat 8 and tow 5,000 pounds feels unreal. You get the space of a minivan, the look of an SUV, and the mileage of a sedan. The second row also shows how well Toyota studies family needs. The seats slide and recline, and they come with ottomans that lift your legs. Kids can sleep with ease. Older passengers stay comfortable. These are real comfort upgrades, not add-ons for the spec sheet. What comes next will make you rethink which luxury SUVs are actually worth the money and which ones are selling image instead of quality. Number 2, the Acura MDX. Acura was in rough shape about 5 years ago. The designs felt like fancy Hondas, the brand had no identity, and sales kept falling. People in the industry were already writing it off. Then the new MDX came out, and Consumer Reports gave it a 97. That score is usually for cars that almost never break. The real shock is how it matches Lexus-level reliability while coming in about $20,000 cheaper than German rivals. And here's the twist: Acura barely advertises. The MDX may share a platform with the Honda Pilot, but the overlap stops there. The suspension setup is different for better handling. The sound insulation is heavier with added material in the doors, floor, and roof. The electronics use higher-grade parts. They are related, but they are nothing alike. The MDX feels like what Honda would build if cost targets didn't exist and quality was the only goal. Mechanics keep bringing up the service schedule. The MDX needs so little that dealers had to create reminder programs because owners forget it needs anything at all. The first major service after oil changes shows up at 30,000 miles. Many luxury SUVs need transmission work at 15,000, differential fluid at 20,000, and spark plugs by 25,000. The MDX asks for oil changes and tire rotations till 30,000, and that's it. The tech finally works the way it should. Voice control understands normal speech. The interface is simple enough that you don't need a manual. Phone pairing stays steady and does not drop when the road gets rough. Car tech often trails consumer tech by years, but the MDX feels current and smooth. The warranty is another surprise. Acura pushed the powertrain coverage to 6 years or 70,000 miles without pressure from customers. They didn't wait for issues to show up. They did it because they trust the product and want buyers to test it. Ride quality is another place where the MDX stands out. Engineers spent 2 full years tuning the suspension for a family SUV. Most brands spend a few months. The payoff is a ride that feels like a luxury sedan. It smooths out rough roads but still corners with confidence. It weighs around 4,500 pounds but handles like something much lighter. The third row is also usable. Many 3-row SUVs treat it like a token space for kids. The MDX offers room where adults can sit without feeling cramped. The second row slides forward easily, so the last row is simple to reach. Small details, but they matter when a family uses all rows often. And now the next pick on the list changes the way people think about reliability, comfort, and price. Number 1, Mazda CX-90. Mazda was close to failing in the 2000s. It relied on Ford engines just to stay alive. Most buyers still skip the brand when shopping for high-end SUVs. Yet this same company has now built the most reliable 3-row luxury SUV you can buy. Consumer Reports gave it a 98, and the auto world is still trying to understand how this happened. It comes down to Mazda changing its priorities. Instead of chasing tech tricks or chasing status, it focused on the fundamentals. The CX-90 uses a naturally aspirated inline-6. Most brands walked away from this setup because it costs more to build and it is tougher to meet fuel rules. But the layout brings fewer weak points. No turbo units failing at 80,000 miles, no intercoolers leaking, no boost systems acting up, no carbon buildup problems from complicated fuel systems. It is simple metal parts working in sync. The transmission is an 8-speed from ZF, the same company trusted by BMW, Porsche, and Aston Martin. Mazda made a smart call that others skip. It softened the tuning. It is not chasing peak acceleration. It is chasing long life. The unit works at only about 60% of its limit, so it is never stressed. The clutch packs stay fresh. The torque converter stays smooth. The hardware can handle 600 pound-feet, but Mazda uses only around 340. That gap adds serious life to the system. Then comes the part that makes luxury engineers stare. The CX-90 sits on a rear-wheel drive setup with a front-to-back engine. That is the layout used by a BMW X5 or Mercedes GLE, yet the CX-90 is far cheaper. Mazda brought a high-end platform design into a price range normal buyers can reach, backed by Japanese reliability. It feels like buying a premium watch for a basic watch price. It should not be possible, but Mazda did it. Inside, Mazda went all out. Real maple wood from responsible sources in Japan. Nappa leather on the seats, the same grade used in very high-end cars. Thick sound insulation that keeps cabin noise at only about 63 decibels at highway speed, quieter than many luxury sedans. Mazda studied the Audi Q7 and Volvo XC90, then matched their strengths while charging far less. What Consumer Reports saw in long testing is what makes the score so high. The CX-90 kept running smooth, quiet, and solid without signs of wear that show up early in other three-row SUVs. It feels built for the long run, and the data now backs that up. And with this, we have reached the end of this video. Make sure to like it and subscribe the channel for future upcoming videos.